In the sterile white of the hospital room, John's world didn't end with a flatline, but with a flicker. The lamp above his bed was the only thing keeping him tethered to this world, and he knew it was beginning to fail. A low, electric hum vibrated through the metal frame of the bed, and the scent of hot dust and ozone began to thicken the air. With each dimming pulse of the light, the cold seeped deeper into his bones, a damp chill that had nothing to do with the room's temperature. In the growing shadows, a new sound emerged, not from the machines, but from the darkness itself. A faint, wet scratching, like nails on old plaster. His breath hitched, trapped in his throat, as a primal understanding took hold. The light wasn't just illumination, it was a barrier, and the thing in the corner had been waiting, patient and hungry, for the barrier to fall. A heart monitor's erratic beeping filled the sterile room. For 40 days, Michael Ross was clinically brain-dead, a corpse sustained by a mechanical pulse. Then doctors observed something impossible. The feeding tubes remained untouched. A cold, creeping dread settled over the ward as the truth began to surface. He was being fed by his eyes. Michael Ross was the last person you'd expect a medical mystery to happen to. A 32-year-old high school biology teacher from Portland, Oregon. His life was orderly, predictable. But beneath that surface of normalcy, something was beginning to stir. Something his own biology couldn't explain. Michael was a man who cherished hiking, adored terrible sci-fi films, and taught photosynthesis to his students with an infectious, almost manic zeal. His wife Sarah often called him her human sunflower, forever tilting toward the light, seeking out joy. Then, in an instant, that warmth vanished. The cheerful music cut out, replaced by a profound, unsettling quiet, broken only by the faint, rhythmic drip of water somewhere unseen. Rain lashed the windshield, blurring the traffic lights into smears of crimson and gold. A sudden screech of tires on wet asphalt cut through the downpour. A shadow. A delivery truck, barreling through the red light. The impact was a sickening crunch of metal and glass. Then, an unnatural quiet, broken only by the steady hiss of rain on hot wreckage. A violent crash echoed through the night, followed by an unsettling silence that was soon pierced by distant, wailing sirens. We cut to a stark, sterile hospital room, its cold, antiseptic air carrying the faint scent of bleach and ozone. The neurosurgeon's words to Sarah were blunt and clinical, devoid of all warning. Severe diffuse axonal injury. Brainstem function is minimal. He's in a deep, irreversible coma. Sarah refused to accept the word irreversible. She sat by his ICU bed day after day, holding his limp hand, talking to him, playing his favorite podcasts about deep-sea creatures and cosmic phenomena. The machines breathed for him, their rhythmic hiss the only sound in the sterile silence. Weeks blurred together, marked only by the slow decay of his body, sustained by IV nutrition yet wasting away, his muscle mass melting from his frame. A sour, medicinal scent clung to the air, mingling with the faint, unsettling odor of slow atrophy. He became a skeletal echo of the vibrant man he was. Medical staff began the gentle, persistent push toward discussing options, toward letting go. But Sarah noticed inconsistencies. Nurse. Vitals are surprisingly stable for his condition. The air carried the scent of antiseptic and something faintly metallic, while monitors beeped with a steady, unnatural rhythm. The metabolic panels were deeply unsettling. His ketone levels were completely absent, as though his body wasn't metabolizing its own tissue for energy, which defied all medical possibility. Then, there was the light. A sudden, unnatural glow that seeped into the room. The air grew heavy with the scent of ozone, sharp and metallic, while a faint, electrical hum vibrated through the floor. In that moment, a primal dread took hold, freezing all thought as the impossible unfolded before their eyes. Sarah kept the blinds open during daylight hours, and each night she'd leave that small, angled lamp burning, positioned so it wouldn't shine directly into his eyes. The thought of him lying there in the utter darkness was something she simply couldn't bear. Night after night, that solitary beacon traced the same slow arc across his sleeping form. It was a ritual of quiet vigilance, one that an observant resident, Dr. Alistair Finch, would later note with profound unease. Aris Thorne noticed a pattern that defied medical logic. Each evening, as the shift changed and fluorescent lights dimmed to that single lamp's glow, Michael's condition would subtly improve. His heart rate would steady to a more regular rhythm, a barely perceptible change that Aris caught only through obsessive monitoring. The blood oxygenation levels would tick upward in those shadowed hours, responding not to treatment, but to the darkness itself. When they transferred him for a scan, leaving him alone in that windowless MRI suite for an hour, his vitals would inexplicably drop, Dr. Thorne later recalled. It was a correlation so bizarre we dismissed it twice. A coma patient isn't a plant, but the data persisted. An eerie, unshakable pattern. The sterile air grew heavy with the scent of ozone and a creeping, inexplicable dread. For 12 relentless hours, they imprisoned Michael in absolute, consuming darkness. The only sound was the slow, erratic beep of his heart monitor, each tone a weaker echo than the last. His vital signs didn't crash, but they seeped away, a steady, measurable decline into the void. In that sensory vacuum, A damp chill clung to his skin, and the sterile smell of the room began to curdle with something sour, something old. Like a battery slowly draining, his vital signs faded. Then, the doctors did the opposite. They activated a controlled, full-spectrum light panel, directing its intense beam precisely at his face. The heart monitor's beeps strengthened, becoming steady and rhythmic. His stats didn't just stabilize, they began to improve. His body temperature rose slightly, a quiet anomaly in the sterile chill of the room. A rudimentary calorimetry study revealed he was burning energy without taking any in through his IV, except for the light. Dr. Thorne stared, baffled. The sterile scent of antiseptic now tinged with a sharp, metallic ozone. The air grew heavy, thick, with a dread that settled deep in his bones as the implications took hold. We scanned him again, down to the cellular level. What we found wasn't human. A dense, mutated layer of melanopsin photoreceptors had proliferated across his retinas. This alien tissue linked directly to a rewired hypothalamic region. His optic nerves were no longer just carrying visual signals. They'd become something else entirely. They weren't just fiber-optic cables, but conduits for a brutal, primitive energy conversion. He was photosynthesizing, drawing energy from light like a plant, a grotesque fusion of man and organism. The hospital descended into an ethical and medical frenzy, the sterile air thick with the scent of ozone and cold dread. They weren't keeping a man alive. They were preserving a process, a living, breathing horror that defied all understanding. The biological engine, in its desperate struggle for survival, had rewritten its own fundamental rules. Sarah stared at Michael, her expression a heartbreaking fusion of fragile hope and creeping horror. Her voice barely a whisper, she asked, "Is he still in there? Or is it just the light? Is my husband a man? Or a machine of meat running on sunshine?" Then, on day 40, the climax arrived not with a dramatic awakening, but with a profound and terrifying silence. It was a whisper, a sound, a rasp of air, independent of the ventilator's steady rhythm. Then, a faint, overlapping voice, distorted and slow, emerged from the silence. Michael's voice rasped. "Too bright." Sarah, sobbing, reached to shade his eyes, and his bone-thin, cold hand jerked up, gripping her wrist with shocking weakness. His eyelids fluttered open. Sarah stumbled backward, the air suddenly tasting of ozone and static. His pupils had constricted to pinpoints, but the irises swirled with an impossible, liquid shimmer. A low, distorted hum seemed to emanate from him, vibrating through the floorboards. His gaze didn't meet hers. It passed through her, fixing on the ceiling light. Michael's voice emerged as a hollow monotone. "I can taste the light." A pause, thick with ozone and dread. "It's white noise." His words came in ragged fragments, not memories of her, but raw sensations. "It's screaming," he whispered, the air thick with the scent of ozone and damp earth. 40 days of screaming sun. A sticky dread clung to his skin as he described what could not be seen, only felt. His consciousness returned with the sharp, metallic tang of fluorescent tubes. Then came the slow, thick warmth of morning sun, filtering through a grimy window pane. A deep, gnawing hunger stirred within him as clouds drifted past, blotting out the light. He was awake, and the awareness brought with it a creeping, oily dread, but his consciousness had fused with the abnormal process that saved him. For 40 days, his mind didn't dream. Instead, it processed the raw, unconverted data of electromagnetic radiation. Now, in the present day, Michael sits in a specially designed room in his home. The air is thick, with the faint scent of ozone, and a low, almost imperceptible electrical hum. The walls were a soft, matte gray, bathed in diffuse, indirect light. Michael did not experience a miracle recovery. Instead, he endured a bizarre survival. His body now derives over 60% of its basal metabolic energy from absorbed light. A faint, ozone-like scent hung in the air as he realized the unnaturalness of his condition. He can consume food, but if he ingests too many calories, his body reacts with violent illness. Might has forgotten how to process them. In our interview, Michael speaks with slow, deliberate precision, each word measured and chilling. His voice carries a haunting finality as he states, "I am not a plant." The air grows heavy with the scent of ozone and decay, a sticky dread clinging to every moment of his confession. Plants are efficient, thriving in a perfect, silent cycle. I am a broken thing, a malfunction in the system. My eyes are always hungry, a hollow need that never quiets. A sunny day is a feast, a torment of warmth I can never truly digest. A long, dark night is a famine. I feel the slow drain, the cold he can no longer teach. The light in a classroom is agony, a cacophony of flavors. To Michael, the world appeared ordinary, but beneath its surface, his subconscious perceived light as a tangible, consumable substance. It was a silent, parasitic awareness, a constant hunger that gnawed at the edges of his perception. The final memory is of Sarah and Michael on their porch as dusk settled. She held his hand, but his gaze was vacant, turned not toward the sunset's colors, but inward, toward the consuming dark. He tilts his face toward the dying light, his expression etched with a quiet, profound desperation. Sarah whispers, I have my husband back. But when he sits so still, just facing the window, I wonder, did the man I love survive the coma? Or did he merely become the perfect vessel for the light that sustained his body? As the screen fades, the imagined hiss of a heart monitor lingers, posing the haunting question: what is the price of a life? Michael Ross paid a price not in flesh or blood, but in his very connection to reality. No clinical intervention pulled him back from the abyss. It was a grotesque, biological fluke. He survived, yes, but the air now carries the faint, metallic scent of ozone to him, a constant reminder. He is alive, yet irrevocably altered. The final frame holds a truth too terrible to voice. It is a whisper in the dark, a cold certainty that settles in the marrow. The air carries the metallic scent of a promise broken long ago, a taste like cold iron on the tongue. And in that stillness, you understand, some emptinesses are not meant to be filled. They are voids that consume forever.